There have been fighters who have called out certain opponents, where once the fight was booked, it didn't go their way. So here is 10 callouts that backfired in the UFC. Number 10. After defeating Johnny Eduardo at UFC Fight Night 80, Aljamain Sterling already had his opponent in mind. This was top-ranked bantamweight Bryan Caraway. Bryan Caraway last defeated Eddie Wineland at UFC on Fox 16 and was waiting for the right fight to come back to active competition again. Aljamain Sterling terrorized Bryan Caraway on social media, where things quickly became personal. After months of constant aggravation from Aljamain Sterling, Bryan Caraway accepted the fight, where both fighters were scheduled to face each other at UFC Fight Night 88. In the fight, Bryan Caraway slightly edged the grappling exchanges to win the fight by a close split decision. Number 9. After knocking out Thiago Tavares at the Ultimate Fighter 23 finale, Do Hoi Choi politely called out top-ranked featherweight Cub Swanson, as he thought it would be an exciting fight between two fighters who always hunt for the finish. Cub Swanson accepted the fight, and both fighters were scheduled to face each other at UFC 206. In the fight, both fighters put on an exciting war, where Cub Swanson was given the unanimous decision victory. Number 8. After defeating Teruto Ishihara by unanimous decision at UFC Fight Night 99, Artem Lobov had Cub Swanson as an opponent in mind for his next fight. Artem Lobov started a Twitter war with Cub Swanson, where eventually both fighters agreed to fight each other. They were given the main event slot for UFC Fight Night 108, where Cub Swanson won the fight by unanimous decision. Number 7. After defeating Penn by unanimous decision at UFC 137, Nick Diaz called out George St. Pierre, saying that he was scared to fight him. GSP took these comments offensively and agreed to fight him. The UFC scheduled the fight to happen at UFC 158, where GSP mixed his striking with his takedowns to win the fight by unanimous decision. Number 6. After defeating Joe Stevenson at UFC 91, Kenny Florian called out then UFC lightweight champion Penn, saying that he wanted his belt. The UFC immediately booked the fight, where both fighters were scheduled to face each other at UFC 101. In the fight, Penn overwhelmed Kenny Florian with his superior grappling skills to win the fight by a rear naked choke in the 4th round. Number 5. After knocking out Guto Innocente at the Ultimate Fighter 19 finale, Derek Lewis called out Matt Mitrione, who was sitting cage side, to a fight. Just 3 days later, the UFC booked both fighters to fight at UFC Fight Night 50, where Matt Mitrione knocked out Derek Lewis in just 41 seconds of the 1st round. Number 4. After defeating Mirko Krokop at UFC 128, Brendan Schaub had his eyes on defeating another legend in Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira. Both the UFC and Big Nog agreed to the fight, where they were booked to face each other at UFC 134, where Brendan Schaub was knocked out in the 1st round. Number 3. After Eddie Alvarez agreed to defend his UFC lightweight title against then UFC featherweight champion Conor McGregor at UFC 205, Khabib Nurmagomedov needed an opponent for UFC 205. Michael Johnson started a campaign for a fight with Khabib on social media, where both fighters eventually agreed to fight each other and were booked for UFC 205. In the fight, Khabib absolutely mauled Michael Johnson on the ground to win the fight by a Kimura lock in the 3rd round. Number 2. After defeating Shayna Baszler at UFC 177, Bethe Correia campaigned for the title fight against then UFC Women's Bantamweight champion Ronda Rousey, antagonizing her, saying she would give Ronda Rousey the worst beating of her life. Ronda Rousey accepted her challenge, and the UFC scheduled them to a fight for UFC 190. In the fight, Ronda Rousey knocked Bethe Correia out in just 34 seconds, retaining a UFC Women's Bantamweight title. Number 1. After defeating Rashad Evans at UFC on Fox 19, in his post-fight interview, Glover Teixeira called out Anthony Johnson for a fight. Anthony Johnson accepted the fight, and both fighters were booked to face each other at UFC 202. In the fight, Anthony Johnson threw an uppercut from hell, sending Glover Teixeira to the Shadow Realm in just 13 seconds of the 1st round.